The city always looked best from above, and Evan Holloway had built his life on that view. From the top floor of a downtown tower, he watched traffic pulse like veins filled with light, each car a reminder that the world moved because people like him decided how it should. At 50, Evan was a name spoken carefully in corporate offices and government hallways. His investments shaped neighborhoods. His influence reached places he never physically visited. He had money that didn't feel like numbers anymore, just permission to avoid inconvenience, discomfort, and most forms of reality. Yet every night, when the glass walls reflected his face back at him, he saw a man who looked untouched by joy. His eyes were sharp, disciplined, trained to measure risk and reward, but behind them lived a quiet fatigue that no vacation had ever eased. His apartment was immaculate, designed by professionals who understood luxury but not warmth. No personal clutter. No memories left out. He slept alone, not because no one wanted him, but because no one ever stayed. Evan told himself this was the cost of building something permanent. Relationships were temporary. Power was not. Across town, beneath a flickering streetlight that never quite worked right, Naomi Brooks waited for the bus with a grocery bag that held more hope than food. The wind cut through her coat, thin from years of use, and she shifted her weight to keep warm. She had learned to calculate everything: how long the food would last, how far her paycheck could stretch, which bills could wait without consequences turning dangerous. At 39, her hands carried the marks of work that didn't come with titles or recognition. Cleaning, caregiving, night shifts that blurred into mornings. Naomi had buried her mother 3 winters earlier after a long illness they managed with borrowed time and unpaid bills. Since then, life felt like a series of quiet negotiations with survival. Her younger brother drifted in and out of trouble, and sometimes in and out of her couch. Still, Naomi smiled easily. She listened when people spoke. She noticed small things: who looked tired, who avoided eye contact, who needed help but wouldn't ask. Her life was hard, but it was honest. Evan and Naomi shared the same city, breathed the same air, and never once crossed paths. Their worlds were separated not by distance, but by layers of insulation, money, access, assumptions. Evan believed poverty was unfortunate but distant, a statistic to be addressed by policy and donations. Naomi believed rich people lived in a different climate altogether, untouched by the cold that kept her awake at night. The illusion shattered the morning Evan received a call that didn't follow the usual rules. It came from a federal investigator, polite but firm, requesting a meeting. Evan's first instinct was annoyance. His second was confidence. He had lawyers for this. He had accountants. He had always played within the edges of the system, close enough to profit, far enough to stay protected. That confidence held through the first meeting, then weakened during the second, and began to fracture by the third. An internal whistleblower. Long-buried documents. Decisions made years earlier that had aged badly under new regulations. Evan watched people around him change, voices careful, smiles absent, loyalty conditional. The investigation dragged on, quiet but relentless. Investors pulled out. Banks froze accounts temporarily. The word followed him everywhere, hollow and threatening. Temporary became permanent faster than he expected. The company he built unraveled in months. Properties were sold off. Assets seized. The board removed him without ceremony. Evan sat alone in his office on the last day, the room stripped of anything personal, staring at the city that no longer answered to him. For the first time in his life, there was no decision left to make. When he left the building carrying a single box, no one stopped him. The fall didn't make headlines. It made silence. Calls unanswered. Emails ignored. People who once needed him suddenly found distance. Evan rented a small apartment, then a smaller one. He sold watches he never wore. Pride kept him from asking for help. Shame kept him from explaining. He told himself he would recover. He always had. But recovery requires time, and time requires money. The night Evan slept outside, it wasn't dramatic. No rain. No music swelling. Just cold concrete and a sky barely visible between buildings. The city sounded different down there, closer, harsher. Every noise felt personal. He pulled his coat tighter and realized how quickly comfort rewires the body. Hunger made him dizzy. Fear made him alert in ways boardrooms never had. People passed him without looking. Some looked too long. The next morning, Naomi noticed him near the bus stop, sitting stiffly on a bench, his clothes too clean to belong, his eyes too tired to fake confidence. He didn't ask for anything. He just sat there, staring at nothing. She recognized that expression immediately. It was the look of someone whose life had collapsed faster than their pride. She bought an extra coffee and placed it beside him without a word. Evan looked up, surprised, unsure how to respond. He nodded once, awkwardly, like a man unused to accepting anything without a transaction attached. Naomi smiled briefly and walked away. Neither of them understood it yet, but that small act, quiet, unrecorded, was the first crack in the walls they had both learned to live behind. And the city kept moving, unaware that two lives had just begun to change direction.